Ladies and gentlemen, big Tory
Kia ora koutou whanau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Kieran News. Chewy, good evening, sir.
Kia ora, Pat. How we doing?
Good. I made it. I got back. Look, you can tell I was running late. There's the chicken bones right there for dinner that I had just in the last 10 minutes while I was getting ready. For those who didn't hear last night, I went off to see my 18-year-old in a concert tonight. So it's good. Got back in time. Here I am, and am amped about tonight's show. Yeah. Housekeeping. People have been asking me, Chewy, about the podcast awards.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I've kind of said, I don't really think I can be bothered. It's quite a lot of work. And when you're going up against RNZ and, you know, stuff and spin-off, it's a pretty unlikely chance that you'll get anything anyway. Because there is I'm not saying that this is a bad thing or they do it on purpose, but there is a bias that goes towards sort of those, they're real news shows, not this percent little thing that we do in the bottom of the South Island. But last night I was supposed to go to bed and I started just looking around and I looked at our numbers, right? And I found that we've done 166,000 downloads in the last 12 months, just downloads of the audio podcast. So that's Spotify, Apple podcasts. And I went, that's not an embarrassing number. And then I went on YouTube and had a look, and in the same time frame, we've done 1.9 million views over that 12 months. I'm like, and then I started thinking, and I went, Professor Margaret Mutu. You know, we were the guys that outed the Corolla and the Ferrari conversation, how they were using the same script everywhere. Dunedin Hospital. You know, what the government's doing with Māori right now. The smoke-free 2025. And I went, nah, fuck. There's some pretty good stories here to put into an entry. So I think I've been swayed that I might chuck it in. I don't, being really honest, I don't expect to get anything. But I thought...
But we're punching, mate. We're punching.
Yeah. And remember what I did last year? Like every clip that we did, every TikTok that I made, the end of it was like, go here and vote for us for the Viewers' Choice Award. And we got second in the Viewers' Choice Award, only because of all that work I did. I don't think I'm going to do that again. So whanau out there, lovely people, when eventually it comes up, which is in about 4 or 5 days, they open up for the Viewers' Choice or Listeners' Choice or Audience Choice, whatever it's called, then that'll be up to you. So yeah, I think maybe I think I will enter it. I think I will. I honestly, and look, I'm not trying to be snarky and be like, no, we'll never get anywhere. But I know I've been around for long enough doing radio awards and, you know, podcast awards that you know how the system goes. It'd be very unlikely that it does anything. So what it means is I'm just spending a bunch of time to get in front of judges and it won't go anywhere. Oh, you know the other thing I thought? This is what I thought as well. I create from what we do over 150 pieces of content a month. And I actually thought, you know, if a judge saw that on a piece of paper, that's like, okay, maybe we need to take this a bit more seriously. Between 150 and 200 individual pieces of content a month, 500,000 New Zealanders, upwards of 500,000 New Zealanders touch some of our content per month, 1.9 million views in that 12 months, 166,000 downloads. And that's just YouTube views. There's also Facebook and Twitch and Twitter and all those things as well. I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll do it. Yeah, so there's my thoughts, Joey. So I'll give it a crack.
I think we should do it. Like everybody loves the little guy. I seem to remember whoever won the category that we were having a crack at. They were like a breakfast radio show sort of podcast type thing, and they just mobilized all of their audience to do
Oh,
it.
you mean the listener's choice? Yeah, it was the guys. They actually, I can't think of their name right now. It's Morning Shift, I think. They're really
that's
good.
one.
They don't do. It's not radio. It's only on the internet. They're doing it right. They do it on the internet. And they've got a massive audience. They're like the only ones in New Zealand doing it. Like they're like the the Sirius FM, Sirius XFM, whatever it is, of America. And obviously they've got a much bigger audience than us. So they got. But we got a second. That was nice. Yeah, we'll give it a crack. But I did do some. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I know you've planned out a show, but we've got some news that is.
Yeah, I just saw that break. Is it breaking?
Press.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, that's fresh. Is 9 minutes to go. Greens have decided to waka jump Darleen Tana.
So that's got to be a 75% majority to do that. From the Green Party, who have been against the waka jumping rules for a very long time. So it's going to be interesting to see. Should we text someone? Should we try and be the first to do it?
Yeah. So it's come from the Green Party membership.
Yeah.
So obviously there's been a vote held there. Green Party co-leader Chloe Swarbrick confirmed that the party voted unanimously to notify the Speaker and told Tana it was time for her to do the right thing and resign. As we know, Tana quit the party in July amid allegations of migrant exploitation. She stayed on as an independent, which pissed me off. While the Greens, historically opposed to the party hopping legislation, sought its members' support to get rid of her. Tonight's meeting is now over with the consensus of all 185 delegates at the special general meeting approving the use of the waka jumping law. Co-leaders Chloe Swarbrick and Marama Davidson said that they've written to Tana to inform her and repeat their request that she resign. So they're still asking her to pull the pin so they don't have to do this.
Right.
But it seems to be absolutely unanimous. It's a united Green Party, and I get it. Like, for anyone that voted for the Green Party to lose some of their voting power to someone who's just done the dirty on them and gone me before party.
Yeah.
I get it.
I've just texted a couple of Green MPs. I don't have Chloe's details, but I've got a couple of others, and I suspect it'll be no. But maybe this won't be for like this year's awards. Maybe this will be for next year's. Who knows? They know us. They might break a few rules of their PR people and jump on board. We'll see what happens. I'll just leave my phone there. Yeah, interesting. I mean, I don't know. Like I've been saying for quite a while about that. Now I'm not the person that understands how it all works. But because they have been against the waka jumping, them getting rid of Darleen Tana out of Parliament or not isn't going to make any difference to how the Parliament makes up this time round. So in my mind, I'm like, maybe you should save up the one time you can be a bit hypocritical, is that the right word? For a time when it would actually matter. It matters now because of the kind of morality of it. But it's not going to make any difference to the political world, to the imagine if like the Greens and Labor had a 1-seat majority and they had to waka jump someone, you'd be like, yeah, okay, you got to do it. But it's interesting. This feels like it's more of a doing the right thing as opposed to being politically expedient.
So what happens here? Like she's bounced. And does someone else on the Green Party list replace her?
And the next on the list sounds like he's utterly hilarious. Something like a juggler and a pole dancer I heard someone talking about him the other day. It sounds like a real greenie from the 90s. Fantastic. Yeah.
Because this is the thing. As someone that voted for the Green Party, like, I think it would be different if she was an electorate MP. Like, if her electorate had put it there, that would be a different case because she could. I don't think
they could waka jump her if she was an electorate MP.
Yeah. So, like, being an independent only makes sense if you were voted there from an electorate. If you were there on the list of a particular party that you are no longer part of, it makes no sense. No sense at all. The cheek of her, the arrogance to say I'm going to stay on as an independent.
Yeah, but remember, bro, I don't know anything about Darleen Tana. I don't know any of her background, her personal issues, but we have seen things like her business with her husband has gone bankrupt, and that salary is 180K. I mean, even if I felt dirty staying in the job, would you walk away from it if there was no income or money anywhere else in your life? Be hard to.
But hopefully I've been stacking up 180K for a bit.
Yeah, but no, I'm just looking. It's not heard a vibration. Oh, I'm just trying to find out who the name of the next person is. I'm just looking. Someone in the chat might look. Keep an eye on the chat, and we could bring them up. Yeah. Anyway. Anywho, how many Green MPs are there? I could just go down the list. How many Green MPs are there?
I literally don't know.
Darling, is Celia Wade Brown in? She is, isn't she?
Benjamin Doyle.
Okay, there you go. I told you that. Yep. Benjamin Doyle. Okay, let's just do this super quick. Who is BenjaminDoyle? Benjamin Doyle, candidate for Hamilton West electorate. I'm just trying to see if I can find like a story about him. Rather, is that Ben Doyle? No. Benjamin Doyle. I don't know what this is. We're going in blind. We'll do it live. Doesn't say much. Benjamin Doyle. Yeah, no.
That is very brief.
Yeah. Benjamin Doyle. There we go. We'll do the about me. Kitty Roa is my home. I'm a papa, a teacher, a researcher, and a community organizer. I'm also proudly takatapu and whaikaha. For nearly 10 years, I've taught and lead in secondary schools in both Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, and Kirikiriroa, Hamilton, with a focus on rangatahi, achieving equitable educational outcomes. I'm currently working as a university researcher with a focus on educational wellbeing and anti-racist pedagogy. Yeah, that's a pretty standard sort of way. We can't get to all the fun stuff, but we'll see. All right. Well, look, I'm being honest. I don't expect to hear back from anyone, but we've done the text and we'll see what happens. Nope. There we go. And if we do, we'll cut in. And if we don't, we will go on with our show. It's a really big show. The one thing I want to tell punters is what I told you just before we came on. You guys know who are.
This is good.
We're not gonna show that image tonight because it's not finished, right? But we've seen some. We've seen step one. We've seen some startups of Nikki No Boats, what it might look like, and it looks freaking awesome. You guys know who were with us last night, in the last couple of nights, that we have basically purchased, don't have hold of it yet, a 3-stage printing process where you've got a big massive printer, you've got a computerized cutter that cuts out the things you've printed, and then a press. So the person who's been doing our BHN merch is selling the stuff to us, and we're going to keep doing it. But after I saw, Chewy, that Nikki No Boats first draft or second draft or first final draft today, I thought, oh God, that'd be a good sticker. I went, texted my man, you know the thing that I've just bought of you, does that do stickers? Absolutely it does. So we will probably go into
stickers, kids.
Yeah, we like stickers, into the sticker printing game as well.
Stickers.
Yeah, that's pretty dope. Thought we'd let you know about that. Hey, let's get on to an interesting conversation about our hairless leader. You know how we don't ever hear back from people? Well, I was listening to the Spin-Offs podcast, Gone by Lunchtime. It's their political podcast, and I heard their introduction. Have a listen to the introduction, if it wants to.
For Luxon's request, or his officer's request, for Christopher Luxon to come on their pod.
Hang on.
Luxon's request. There's a whole series popular and very good podcast, Between Two Beers.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
It turns out, and if you look online, there's a whole series of podcasts that Between Two Beers have done, in which they tackle the question of whether or not to accept Christopher Luxon's request, or his officer's request, for Christopher Luxon to come on their pod, which presumably is part of the Christopher Luxon is in touch after all campaign, given the poll that was out this week that showed 51% said he was out of touch.
So Gone by Lunchtime was talking about, and I've seen this between Two Beers podcast. What happened was Christopher Luxon's team approached Between Two Beers to go on their podcast. I'll play you a couple of clips. They then made a whole show about it. Christopher Luxon wants to come on Between Two Beers. We made a tough decision. Play you a couple of clips. And they first of all made their decision based on they don't do political interviews. They just don't do them. Have a listen.
I remember two of them who said yes had been trying to get
the people who he's talking about. They talked to some political journalists about what they should do. And the 2 out of the 3 political journalists said that we can't get access to him. Not like pissant nobodies like us, but 2 of the 3 political journalists that these guys talked to said that they couldn't get access to Christopher Luxon.
And I remember 2 of them who said yes had been trying to get Luxon on their show all year and said, well, he won't do interviews with us. You've got to take it. Like it's such a good opportunity. But I was also like, well, that's also a reason not to do it.
I think that's when I flipped, when I heard that he hadn't taken the opportunities with political editors or political, what do we call them, political journalists.
Yeah.
That kind of like...
I'll go with old Stephen Shea. Give me a few soft balls.
Yeah, that's it. I was sort of a little bit like, oh, that's not cool. You know, like, because these are really good journalists. Like, I rate them.
So they're talking about him not coming on, and they end up making their final decision.
You know, sending that response back to the Prime Minister's office saying, hey, look, we've had a bit of a think about it. Thanks, but no thanks. Was like, okay. And someone said to me, you are what you turn down, which I really, really liked. And I was like, wow, okay. We have started this podcast in a garage in Hamilton, and now we're turning down the Prime Minister for good reasons.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
So, you're getting the picture. Christopher Luxon hasn't been going on podcasts or many broadcasts that are of significant length, and that might put him in a position where he has to answer questions. I heard the guys, as I say, from Gone by Lunchtime talking about it. When they got to the end of that introduction, they said something as well.
Anyway, they grappled with this difficult question of whether or not to have Christopher Luxon on their podcast.
Yeah.
And eventually decided no.
Oh,
after
good for them.
much discussion, that it was that because
Jack-
he would
Jack
tell
Tame
them
yeah.
what suited them.
Yeah.
Well, Jack Tame, but also
I was going to say Jack Tame
what
would be
about
in
Gone
the-
by Lunchtime?
That's right.
So he obviously hasn't gone by Lunchtime, and they've obviously tried. And then they, of course, mentioned Mr. Tame.
We've had many messages from you in recent weeks and months about politicians who are prepared to be interviewed on Q&A. It's now more than a year since Christopher Luxon was last on this show. He's actually never been interviewed on Q&A in his capacity as Prime Minister. We've requested him many times. We've asked his team what dates would suit. We've tried to work in with what is obviously and understandably a busy schedule, but so far he hasn't appeared. Just for the sake of context, we went through our records, and the last national Prime Ministers, Sir Bill English and Sir John Key, were interviewed on Q&A more than 4 times a year on average. During her time as Prime Minister, Dame Jacinda Ardern was interviewed on Q&A twice a year. We think there's democratic value in putting questions to politicians of all stripes, and we hope the Prime Minister agrees to be interviewed soon.
So, no Q&A. And I'm just starting to go, There's a concerning pattern here. I know people who, I should mute that because it's going to make noise. I know people who make the Detail. Detail is a newsroom RNZ collaboration. And I phoned one of the producers from that today and asked if he'd been on there. And she went, well, we haven't had any politicians on. We don't ask them because we get experts on in their field. So fair enough. They haven't asked. He hasn't gone. And of course, then there's like little know-nothing, no-hopers like us who send emails and stuff and don't get anything. And I find it particularly interesting that there are so many, and this is not us journalists, but journalists, qualified journalists with integrity, speaking to a huge number of New Zealanders every single week or month, every single day, and he won't go on. He's been on News Talk ZB with Kerry Woodham at least twice. And I just thought, this is an interesting observation, Chewy. Thoughts, sir?
I think it really shows what he's concerned about. We know that he can't handle someone like Jack Tame. Like Jack,
Yeah, but forget Jack Tame.
a pretzel.
Forget Jack Tame. I mean, I'm not saying we should be at the top of the list, but us, gone by lunchtime.
Well, see, here's the thing. Even us and all of these other people, we're across the politics, right? We follow the stories, the issues as best we can. He's not interested in that. He's not competing in that sphere. What he wants is to be relatable and likable in a way that he's clearly not capable of coming across.
Let me just say one more
So
thing.
if he goes on a popular podcast to humanize him, this is why we'll see him or hear from him on the Edge Breakfast Show before we'll ever see him on Q&A.
So, but see, here's the thing though. As opposition leader, he was on a year ago. He was on 3 years ago. He was on 2 years ago. There was a full conversation with him on. So it's not like he hasn't been on. He's been on what it looks like at least 4 or 5 times. Yeah, he hasn't been on since he's been the Prime Minister. And like, full respect to the Between Two Beers boys, they actually said, if you listen to that 25-minute episode, they're like, we didn't want to be in a position where we basically let him get away with stuff that we didn't know about to be able to challenge him on. And I'm like, full credit.
That's some good integrity.
Full credit.
Yeah.
But his team, they didn't approach him. His team offered him to them so that he wants to go on that show. Yet the people who want him on, who are in the sphere that relates to him as a Prime Minister, he won't go on. And that's sort of all I've got to say about this. But I guess what I want to do, because I listened to that episode of Between Two Beers a month ago, but it's just now all dropping into place when I hear Gone by Lunchtime go, maybe us. You hear Jack Tame go, anytime you want, Prime Minister. You hear us going, a monthly email that doesn't even get a rejection. It just gets nothing. It's just it's an interesting observation from a man who sets himself up as a leader and a communicator, not communicating with an audience. Talking to my mate over at the Detail, she went, oh yeah, but you guys are the enemy. And I'm like, yeah, but okay, but we're really overt with where we sit politically, and we're fair. And actually, you could also look at it by going, there's hundreds of thousands of people that our content touches each month that he could potentially win over. But nothing.
Well, this is something, right? So we're often critical of people that go on the platform because it's a garbage fire. Yep. But the argument is for people to go on there and talk to an audience that might not think much of them. And there is a segment that you might convince that you actually know what you're talking about, and that there's a different way to do it. Well, that's the same. Luxon hasn't gone on the platform either, to the best of my knowledge.
We checked that, but yep.
But like we're open to people from the government coming on, and yes, we stand against what they're doing. This is the opportunity to try and explain that we're fucking wrong. And to win over our audience potentially, like that's an opportunity, right? You want to stay in government, you want to talk to people that might switch sides. Now, we're pretty polarized, but he has been on the platform.
But it was a year ago, so it might be.
There we go.
It might be pre-election. The date is. I don't normally give a date in here. I go more than they give a date. Yeah, June of last year, so it was pre-election.
Yeah, so as soon as he's Prime Minister, he's not interested, because it's real easy being an attack dog for an opposition, right? Government's doing everything wrong. We're going to do everything right, and then you become the Prime Minister, and then the questions change, don't they?
Yeah,
don't they? He's good at doing sound bites.
Yeah,
he's good at doing. Well, he's not great at doing short interviews or stand-ups or anything like that. He tends to get pissy as the questions continue. Yeah. And like, we're not fans of Sean Plunkett, but the man can do a line of questioning, right? Sometimes he needs to has to have a big sit down afterwards, but he could do it.
Can I say one more? Let me say one thing, because I don't want people to think that we're kind of pissing and saying, oh, why don't you come on ours? I never feel like we deserve anybody's time. Like, we're not entitled to anybody's time. They're allowed to say no. So I'm not trying to say, well, why don't you come on our show? Like every time I email someone to come on, I always say who we are and what we do and give them links. What's happening more and more now, 9 out of 10 people go, oh yeah, we know you guys. That's happening more now, but I don't make any sort of, I don't guess that they might know who we are, nothing. And I never, ever, ever have an expectation that people have to come on. It's their right, it's their choice. But when you have a Prime Minister who seems to be showing a trend of not going on anything other than, and again, due respect to the boys from Two Bears, but, you know, a fluff piece about his childhood, because, I mean, that's what they do. They had if you don't know who they are, go listen to their episode with Mark Ellis. It's fantastic. Then you got to start asking questions. Why not? Why not? Forget us. Why not Jack Tame? Why not Gone by Lunchtime? Why not? I kind of interrupted you there, Chewy. Sorry.
No, I haven't taken it personally.
I'll make a sticker for you. You can get the first one.
Look, this is one of the things. We'll continue asking, because, like, some people just like an argument. You don't get into politics because you don't like arguments. You love arguments. You've made it your fucking career.
Yeah.
Like, come on to our show and tell us how we're wrong. Like, everybody loves to be the winner.
All right.
Are they coming? Are they coming?
This is there you go. We've finally convinced him. He'll be on Monday. All right. Thanks for the super chat, Peter. If you remember the first Rocky movie, he didn't win there either. That's about the awards. Kooky says late fee. Mr. Arvid says Tana na na. Hey hey hey. Goodbye. Kiwi Bird. Finally, the drama Tana saga is over. Is Chewy wearing a No Gods, No Masters t-shirt?
So close. I am wearing a Pepper Raccoon t-shirt that says No Gods, and then a picture of an angry raccoon, just trash. It's one of my favorite t-shirts.
Panda. Is it Trash Pandas? Yeah, Trash Pandas, I reckon.
Trash Panda.
It's in the ballot. Yes, they can waka jump and they can waka jump an electric MP, but it results in a by-election to replace them. Got you. Gaurav Sharma was scared this was going to be used. Kiwi Bird, Nikki, no boats, no hopes, no votes, no guides. It's getting longer, isn't it? Every single line. I thought you guys were between two bears. I'm in front of a few bears. I mean, there's a few in here. Some bearsies. So I'm in front of some bears, but I'm not between them.
As someone that's been confused as Zach Galifianakis once, I'm glad that it's not between two ferns.
Yeah, that's very funny as well. The bloopers from Between Two Ferns on YouTube is even funnier than the Between Two Fears. Free Palestine, says Stephen Lennon. Fair enough. Peter King says late fee and good on ya. Between Two Bears. Yeah, that line. You're as good as the people you turn down. That's challenging. That's challenging. Nikki no boats and Luxon no show. So proud of New Zealanders not putting up with his shit. What else we got there? Campbell says, got to remember Luxon has a busy schedule selling his houses and screwing over New Zealand. Free Soul, is Carmela can go on Fox, Luxon go on BHN. Is that a compliment for us, Chewy, or do you take offence? I mean, like,
I have a confusion.
Yeah.
Speaking of that Carmela interview on Fox, that's amazing. By the way, I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah,
like I urge people to go and watch it because, like, it's exactly what we're talking about here, right? She went into enemy territory on Fox and absolutely handed the interviewer his whole ass and said, "Here, sir, you dropped something." There
was lots of setups that he was trying to get her. Do you think the people who are voting for Donald Trump, if he's those angels, are stupid? Because she could have said, they're a basket of deplorables, and she said, I would never call the voting public stupid. He laid the trap and she didn't fall in. It's very, very, very clever. It's a very good interview. And if you can't spend the whole time watching it, go watch a Brian Tyler Cohen or a Vanguard Boys or something, and they'll do a 15-minute kind of highlights package for you. Here's one. I quite like this from Shayad. BHN, why haven't you answered our emails? Luxon, well, I haven't seen it. It's very
I'm not
good.
across it. I'll hand that one off to Mark Mitchell, who's halfway through eating a cronut from New World.
Rochelle Latimer,
what's going on either.
Luxon holds no portfolios, is never briefed on any matters, and reads no reports or recommendations. So he's got more than enough time to front up to public media. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, and as I said, that conversation, there's not really a big big kicker to it, but I just wanted to sort of officially put it out there and go, hey guys, keep noticing this. Keep noticing nothing in a Luxon shaped hole in a whole bunch of these places. Let's have a look. Now, I was out this evening, so I actually haven't seen this story yet, but I knew we'd be doing a story tonight on Tana, on Wellington and Simeon Brown. It seems that Tory Whanau came out pretty strong after the meeting going, no, the ideas of a commission was never brought up, never came up, not once. And I'm like, oh, well, this is interesting. Bloody Simeon Big Nuts swinging a bat all week long, a whole bunch of threats, and then face-to-face meeting, she's like, no, it didn't come up once. Let's have a listen to the story all together for the first time from Stuff.
The Wellington standoff between Mayor and Minister continues, with Tory Whanau bringing the fight to the Beehive today. The Mayor was granted her requested meeting with Local Government Minister Simeon Brown and made her case that the council didn't need government intervention. But Brown told us he's still not convinced. Here's senior political correspondent Jenna Lynch.
Walking up.
It's funny that Brown would tell Stuff, but he wouldn't tell Whanau. Didn't tell her, but told Stuff.
For the most beltway of political showdowns, the Minister versus the Wellington Mayor. Today's round beginning with an early morning meeting at the Beehive.
Polite, and it was very friendly.
As friendly as a meeting can be with a government which has called your council a shambles and threatened intervention.
Other ministers have referred to our council as a shambles. I would disagree with that.
The government began publicly musing about intervening this week after the council dug a fiscal hole hundreds of millions of dollars deep in its long-term plan by voting.
Draft plan, like we said today, draft plan. So as we've said yesterday, the projected budget they had has got a hole in it, and they have to fill that hole. It doesn't seem to be a case, if that's it, for, right, let's get rid of them. If nothing else, they've got till June next year to sort it out.
Not to sell off its stake in Wellington Airport.
I reiterate that I still don't think we've met the threshold for government intervention. However, I do understand if the Minister has concerns.
It's not something we take lightly. They are an elected council.
The Mayor requested the meeting. Local Government Minister Simeon Brown didn't come away any more confident in the council.
When a council is relitigating, an entirety of its long-term plan that could have a significant impact on ratepayers, that is concerning.
You still hold the same concerns as you did yesterday?
Yeah, well, I think the reality is it's a significant change to the long-term plan, and we're expecting advice shortly.
The Minister requested advice on his options on Monday. He's yet to receive it. When that advice comes back, is it a matter of days before you act?
Well, look, as I said the other day, we'll receive the advice and then we'll consider it in terms of what it says.
Is an observer the most likely option?
Oh, look, I'm not going into any of that. We're waiting on the advice.
It's funny now they're not going into any of that, Chewy, but they were pretty loose with their lips earlier in the week. We're going to watch Kieran McAnulty and the Bish. Another T-shirt, hashtag the Bish.
Kieran and the Bish.
And Kieran made the point, and I don't think we're going to watch this part or else we'll have too much, but Kieran made the point that he wasn't going to comment like these guys did, been talking it up all week long. Rubber hits the road today, and all of a sudden, Simeon Brown's maybe not quite backpedaling, but a bunch of that bravado has potentially been lost and gone away.
Is an observer the most likely option?
Oh, look, I'm not going into any of that. We're waiting on the advice.
And it turns out he didn't go into any of that with the Mayor either.
He didn't raise the topic of government intervention.
Beehive sources have indicated to 3 News that an intervention is more likely than not. That the most likely course of action is appointing an observer to the council, and that once that advice comes back, it could happen pretty quickly within the next couple of weeks. Will you challenge that legally?
No, I mean, I don't believe we've met the threshold for an observer or commissioner. However, I understand the concerns that have occurred as a result of last week.
So if he makes a call, you will live with that?
I will live with it, and I will work in good faith with him.
A minister and a mayor wait for advice that will seal the council's fate.
There is another interesting angle from this, Chewy. I'm going to have to go find it because someone messaged me today. So why don't you have a jump in and get your thoughts today? And I'll go find this message that I was sent today. What are your thoughts?
Look, I think this sounds like an absolute debacle. Like, if the government had a concern, why did they go to stuff first?
And
Why
you
would they
mean,
not bring it up
hang
with
on,
the council?
you mean the government response is the debacle rather than what's happening at the council? What do you mean?
Oh, look, I don't think that this thing with Wellington City Council is like an unheard of occurrence that a council doesn't agree or changes something in their draft plan. Now, I've never sat in a council room, and I don't think Simeon Brown has either. But it sounds to me that this was like there was a process that was followed, a democratic vote was taken, and they're going to tweak their long-term plan. I don't see how this led to an utterly knee-jerk, straight to the media reaction from the government, rather than a phone call to Tory Whanau or someone going to the council and going, hey, look, guys, we have some real concerns. You need to get your ducks in a row for the ratepayers. So it just seems a bit fucked.
Yeah.
And the only case that I can think of, like, didn't Tauranga's council get replaced with a commissioner? That's probably the most recent example.
Yeah, I think that's the most recent.
And I, in all honesty, I haven't looked at the events in Tauranga that led to that happening. So, I mean, that's kind of our yardstick of a government stepping in and going, this is a dysfunctional council, and overreach or reaching over and saying, cool, doesn't matter who people voted for, we're getting rid of them, we're putting this person in to run your city. It's a big step. And look, I don't know if it's the fact that it's the capital city that makes it more of a reaction for me, but it seems crazy that there's a few councillors that disagree, like there always is in a council, and that has led to this. It seems out of order.
We're going to get to more of that with Kieran in the bush, because I've got some things to say about there. But here's the other thing that came in. Most of us will know who Jared Otto is. Actually, I don't know who Jared Otto is, but I follow him and follow his news. I'm not entirely sure. We'd take this with a grain of salt, because I'm not entirely sure. You might know what he means by a G newsreader. G newsreader. Can Nicola Willis take over Wellington City? This is 9 hours ago. A G newsreader sent me this message. Now this government wants to effectively sack her, Tory Whanau. It seems to be led on by Nicola Willis and Nicola Young. The latter is a councillor and just happens to be Willis's godmother. In case you didn't know, Nicola is also the daughter of Bill Young, who was Muldoon's right-hand man. Her sister is Rosemary Young, married to Max Bradford, an ex-Wellington City Council and failed Wellington mayoralty candidate. Her older sister is Annabelle Young, who was a National List MP. This is a case of Willis endeavouring to take over Wellington City. It's repugnant. I wonder what we can do. Now, I'll say it again. This is, I guess, an accusation or a theory, and we will take it as that. But that's something that's been put out today, and I've seen it in the form of a message as well. So someone in the chat might be able to tell me what if you know what he means by a G newsreader, a government newsreader. I'm not sure. Like what credibility does a G newsreader? Oh, unless he's saying a Jared newsreader. In other words, so he's doing G News. That's what we're doing? I think that's what we're talking about. He's doing G News. Okay, that'll probably be what it is. So his product's called G News, a G newsreader, not the person's a newsreader like on the radio. That'll be what it is. With it now.
Hey, talking about a dysfunctional council, do you remember the trouble that Gore had recently?
Yeah.
Like quite like that was scandal-tastic in Gore. They had people protesting outside the council buildings in support of their new, very young mayor.
Yeah.
It's funny that level of disruption, where there were votes of no confidence and there were threats of court action against various councillors and that sort of thing, that certainly didn't prompt the government to step in and go, well, hang on, you're not a functional council. Is that something to do with the fact that Gore is all the way tucked down here and it's tiny and it's doesn't have a green mayor?
We can't say it didn't. They didn't come to their attention, but I think what we can say is they made no noise about it. They probably knew about it, and they certainly didn't threaten a commissioner or install one. And that basically looked like they were about to take pistols at 40 yards, So, Yeah, that point's made by Kieran and the Bush, Kieran to the Bush this morning as well. Because Kieran was the local government minister. Is that what it's called? So he was he was down with all of that. He was down. Yeah, it just seems. I want to know, Simeon. Come on and talk to us again, because we've got lollipops. Because if all it is, did I just spoil it? Sorry. If all it is, right, is they need to figure out this new budget because of a democratic process, I don't see how anyone could say that's a shambles and they should be replaced. Unless, here's the conspiracy theory, but Occam's razor, right? People talk about Occam's razor as the most logical conclusion is more often than not the right conclusion. The better way, the actual way of thinking about it is it's the fewest number of assumptions to get to the outcome. And Occam's razor would say this to me. It would say they're making such a big deal over this in Wellington when it seems from the outside that all they're talking about is having to rework their budget, that there's something more to it. I mean, because they're talking money, is it something to do with government lacking in money? Were they needing to see this money come in? There was like a triangle going on or something? Because the amount of pushback the government is giving doesn't fit the problem that they're looking at, which seems to be we've got 8 months to rework our budget. And if we don't rework our budget, come and see us about a commissioner in 8 months. That's how it feels to me, at least.
Yeah, I would agree. Look, there's no arguing about the importance of government looking out for ratepayers as well, but they are an emergency measure.
Yeah,
at that point, councils are responsible to the people that voted them and the ratepayers and that sort of thing. I don't expect central government to come in and replace the people that were voted for unless it's utterly irredeemable.
Because what you're doing is you're overriding the democratic process because things are that bad. And at the moment, it doesn't feel like things are that bad. To basically what you're doing, government, is you're going, all of those taxpayers, ratepayers, citizens of Wellington who voted, we're going to nullify your votes because that's how bad it is to put in a commissioner or a board or something else. And that doesn't feel like put it this way. I have yet to see the evidence that warrants such a serious step in the democratic process.
Could it be because the issues that Wellington are dealing with shine a light on some things that are wrong at a national level?
Yeah, well, it's something.
Like they have huge problems with their pipes. They have huge problems with dealing with the effects of a potential earthquake, with insurance. They have it just shines a light on the issues that local government has to deal with some of these sort of things, that the only way that they have to raise money to do their plans is to sell assets or raise rates. They have no other options. This is something that every council in the country is talking about. This is a huge part, a massively overlooked part of what Three Waters was about letting local governments borrow against their long-term assets to fund further development. And we, like this country, ignored all of that and went, what do you mean the Māoris get a say? And we, the royal we, this whole country, lost their fucking minds, and we've got people that live in the country that this doesn't concern at all, putting up signs about being against tribal rule and driving their tractors into town. It was just a shit show. But this is what we get, and this is why the government is not happy with it, because it provokes conversations like this. Whose fault is it?
I think Brother Monk wins the comment of the week, talking of Simeon Brown. Bit hard to throw your weight around when you haven't gone through puberty. That's pretty good. That's very funny. That's a pretty good one.
I need to find the picture again, Pat? My favorite.
Do you know what I'm already thinking? That's going to be a t-shirt. It's going to be a characterization of him with a lollipop in the back of Dad's car. I think that's going to be one. Code Brown underneath. James says, great discussion about lackluster Luxon. Thank you, James. Is that James's face? That looks James, you look a bit like Carl Pilkington. Marley Craig, Luxon knows he's going to get a grilling on Q&A and podcast. The short end of it is he is a coward, straight up. NZ Random, Luxon is the Timu version of Lex Luthor. Campbell says, calling Wellington local government a shambles and threatening intervention. What's that called again? Oh, right, scaremongering. Especially because, you know, there was always those kids at school whose bravado was bigger than their stature. So what they'd do is they'd find a big meaty mate and then they'd always stand behind them and kind of point over their shoulder and take the piss. And because they had a big meaty mate, you'd never get to them. That's kind of what it feels like at the moment. Simeon Brown has done this all week at the council, and then he's gone face to face with them and he's been all demure and hasn't brought it up at all, according to Tory Whanau. Simeon is browning his pants, apparently. National had no problem with having fiscal holes in their drafts when making promises during the election. That's very fair and very true. Did the government basically say they're okay with a coup? So they're okay with getting rid of the elected officials? Well, there is a process for this. Without question, right? But the point I think that's being made by everybody except maybe Simeon Brown, is they are a long way off the threshold for that process to kick in. And Tricknut 72 says it's a sticker donation with his Danger Mouse logo there. Danger Mouse, amazing. Yeah. Look, we're getting ready for the print stuff. Where's the lollipop one? That's the best one.
It's my favorite picture.
We're getting ready. We're going to have the printer here probably on Monday, and we're going to start learning it. And what I thought we'd do is maybe do some stickers as well. We have to actually order the stuff that the sticker gets printed on, so we'll wait. But put them in. Get a hoodie. We'll throw in some free stickers. Be kind of dope. Be kind of fun. Maybe even sell 10 packs of stickers that you guys can go and put in places that are legal. We're not into graffiti. Illegal graffiti.
Are we not into graffiti? Sorry.
Illegal. Illegal. We're not going to do it. Come get on your mat. Come say hello. Come on, get on your mat.
Yep.
Good girl. There you go. We just wanted some dog porn for a second. She was in the other room lying down and I made her come in here. Hey, let's talk about Kieran in the bush, shall we?
Kieran
because
and the bush.
On I-98 FM, it's Kieran and the bush. Because this is a really interesting conversation. And I'm going to play two parts. Here's the first part. We'll do the Wellington thing second. Here's the first part. Kieran and the Bush talked a little bit about inflation. They talked a bit about who gets credit for it. And Kieran was very clear that there are, and we used the term fishhooks last night, and he kind of used that term as well. And mentioned rents are still going up, and Kieran does mention, where is this downward pressure we've all been promised? And then, and I'm not playing that part of it because they have a backwards and forth here as well, which kind of covers that. And then the Bush gets a chance to answer who gets the credit and why rent's still going up, and let's talk about inflation, etc., etc., etc.
Well, a few issues there. I mean, firstly, Kainga Ora houses are 5% of New Zealand's housing stock, and the rental picture that Kieran's talking about is private sector rent. So, and also,
yes, and when there's not enough KO houses, those clients have to go into the private sector. That's how it works.
Or it's still building houses. So there's a few factual errors in what Kieran's saying there. And actually rents in Wellington and Auckland are flat if you look at over the last year or so. But it is true we need to get rents under control, and the government's got a very ambitious program of housing reform in order to pick up on that. In terms of the wider inflation story, firstly, it is good news, no doubt about that. Down to 2.2%. A year ago it was 5.6%. You got to remember, in the budget, the Labour Party said that the tax cuts that National put in place was going to drive inflation and lead to increased inflation. That has not happened, and that was...
Yeah, we're just going to pause this here, right? So that has not happened. Here is a report from Chief Economist Paul Conway delivering a speech on inflation. I was going to play, but I'll just read you one paragraph. This is what he says. We've got this thing again. It's well established that interest rates take about 18 months to 2 years to influence inflation. But the influence, there's quite a transmission, sort of channel from interest rate changes to inflation. So if we change the OCR markets, react virtually instantaneously. If we change the OCR markets react virtually instantaneously. And then interest rates get into those kinds of wholesale interest rates, get into retail interest rates eventually. So then consumption and investment at the margins do increase off the back of that. And then 18 months to 2 years later, it gets into inflation. So that process takes time. That'll do. So when the Bush says, tax breaks and, it's been 4 months and we haven't seen it, expect to see it at the end of next year and then the following 6 months after that. When interest rates impact inflation, it'll be then. And what's happening in 2.5 years? 2 years? Another election coming up. So in 18 months to 2 years from now, going into the next election, that is when you will see interest rates being impacted from what this government is doing now. So what he just said there is just straight up horse shit, and we have to call them on it.
Significant savings in Budget 24. All of those savings, by the way, the Labor Party opposed at the time and said it was a disaster. So you can't have it both ways. You can't on the one hand say that we're cutting everything and we...
I think that's the wrong thing, sorry. I'll go back to the original clip. Make more sense, wouldn't it? 646. Yeah, 646. Is that the right one? 646. Sorry, dudes. Again, this is a little special for you people watching live. This won't be in the cut.
Drive inflation and lead to increased inflation. That has not happened, and that was 4 months ago. So that's what they said was going to happen, and it hasn't happened. Instead, inflation's come down back into the band, and we're now seeing the Reserve Bank cutting interest rates really dramatically, which is good news. I think the government can, with respect, claim some credit for this. It is partly the Reserve Bank doing its job, but it's also the government having fiscal discipline. The mistake we saw over the last few years was Grant Robertson spending a lot of money at the same time the Reserve Bank was printing a lot of money, and that drove inflation to record highs. Now what we've got is the Reserve Bank taking demand out of the economy through the OCR, but also the government being careful about its own spending, and the combination of that has allowed inflation to return back into the band and the OCR to start dropping. And it's good news for Kiwi households and businesses.
What a load of rubbish. The fiscal discipline, my foot. They're borrowing for tax cuts. It's like paying the mortgage with a credit card. And the only person that's saying they're not borrowing for tax cuts is them. Everybody else.
This is something that I actually would like this government to be asked. I wrote it down. This will be the question. So, Mr. Bishop, would you need to borrow if you weren't doing tax breaks and interest deductibility for landlords? Because they keep saying, in fact, Nikki Noboats was saying things about, we're not borrowing for tax cuts, we're borrowing for, what was it, day-to-day needs, day-to-day groceries or something, It's like, well, would you have to borrow, though, anything if you weren't doing tax cuts or you weren't doing interest deductibility? And they're not answering that.
OCR to start dropping, and it's good news for Kiwi households and businesses.
What a load of rubbish. The fiscal discipline, my foot. They're borrowing for tax cuts. It's like paying the mortgage with a credit card. And the only person that's saying they're not borrowing for tax cuts is them. Everybody else, every objective observer is saying that it's a dumb thing to do it, and they're doing it. They're borrowing more than it was borrowed under us, except for that COVID year, throughout the whole time. And they say they're the fiscal managers. And also, to turn around and say that pausing the builds of Kaingaora does not have an impact.
See, when he moves his posture, you know he's winding up. He's winding up.
When you're playing a video game and you lean forward.
Yep.
It's serious time now.
It's serious time from Kieran.
And also, to turn around and say that pausing the builds of Kaingaora does not have an impact on rent is absolute bollocks. If you're not building houses which people would then move into, what option have they got? They've got the private rental market.
Kieran,
and when you don't have enough houses and too many people are competing against themselves for houses, rent goes up. And if you're going to be talking about promises, remember what they said about the tax cut for landlords? Downward pressure on rents, they said. And what happens? Lo and behold, it goes up to a record level.
So I think Kieran might have been watching last night because, some good vibes going on there. I'm going to do another clip around the Wellington mayoralty and that whole thing, Chewy, because I've got quite a bit to say about that. But I do love the every you took John Key. I'd have a beer with, who would not have a beer with Kieran McAnulty? What a load of rubbish. It's absolute bollocks. It's just real good Kiwiisms there. I love it. And he speaks, but he speaks eloquently, and he speaks backs it up with knowledge and numbers, but he just sounds like a Kiwi. It's fantastic. Sir.
Why would we take the Bish seriously on this stuff? Like, it's almost alternative economics at this point. Like, it is basic economics that if you want to lower cost, you increase supply. So hitting the, let's be honest, stop button on one of the biggest home building projects that this country has seen since the end of World War II might have an effect on stuff. And it's based on a lie. It is based on the fact that it is uneconomical for Kaingaora to do this, that they're spending all of this money. They are building assets, and this country, this government doesn't understand what a truly transformative asset is. They don't get it with housing. They don't get it with transport. They don't get it with healthcare. They just don't get it. It's as simple as that.
Some messages that have been coming in. We're not. I have to say something about Discord. It's not working at the moment. So no, not tonight. Sorry, guys. I have to get it fixed. I've got Jason coming around next week to fix it up. When we install all that new hardware for the cameras, it conflicted somewhere, so we've got to reset everything up. But
as far as Discord goes, there is a new channel there for the exchanging of music videos.
Let's have a look at that at the end of the show.
We're doing it fun.
I haven't looked at it yet. We'll have a look. There'll be no pets to eat. It'll be selling the mother's milk next, says Bud Cool Forward.
They're eating the dogs.
Did I tell you we did get taken, we got demonetized for that? Hey,
for eating dogs.
We played that song. We got demonetized as well for doing those Trump rally. I said we wouldn't, every fucker was doing it, and then we did it, and YouTube went, So I challenged it. We'll see what happens. Anyway, we're only halfway through the story. Sorry, guys, I've distracted us. The other part of the conversation with these two was the conversation about the mayoralty. Now, this is really important, right? This is really important for a really specific reason, and I'll explain it when they get to it. So is it Daniel Faitau who was asking this? I missed it already. Does Tory really have this? Remember, this was before the meeting. So this was earlier this morning before the meeting with Simeon. Does Tory Whanau really have this?
Good. Let's start with Wellington City Council. Kieran, the White It Up is Wellington adjacent. Does the mayor have this, or should the government step in?
It's really clear criteria set out in the Local Government Act and in regulations that were published in the Gazette last year on what needs to be met before a government can intervene. And there's actually a number of options before a commissioner is appropriate. There haven't been many examples where a commissioner's been put into a council. Tauranga is the most recent, I think Kaipara before that, but it doesn't happen very often.
Okay.
But it is quite common for a Crown observer to go down and work with councils and help them through a few issues. Basically, we should wait and see what the advice is. And so there've been a lot of ministers, including the Prime Minister, that waded in and put the boot in here before they've even seen the advice. And that makes me think they want to make a political point. But with DIA report back and say, look, they are having some problems. The council isn't meeting its statutory obligations. Sure, that would be appropriate. But until we know that, it's all speculation.
Chris Bishop, is that what your team is doing? You're just trying to make a political point here?
No, I think we need to be realistic about what's happening in Wellington. It's a pretty concerning situation.
Which is what? So this is he says a lot here in a few sentences that we could probably write a thesis on. We have to be realistic about what's happening in Wellington. Okay, unpack that, Christopher. What is happening in Wellington? Because what we're seeing from the outside is they're having to rejig a budget, and they've got till June of next year to sort it out. So what is happening in Wellington?
And I would probably get an email or someone every day.
Okay, so you've had 300 emails this year about it. How many people live in Wellington? How many of you, how many other people? So 300 emails doesn't say from 300 people. That might be from 10 people, 30 of them each. Email a day doesn't sound like a huge uproar to me.
For the last year or so, say to me, look, you should be really worried about Wellington. You know,
so random emailers are telling him to be worried about Wellington. I'm just trying to figure out how this government operates with where they get their advice from, for example, because it sounds like the advice for the bush is coming from randos on email.
Not just about the airport sale, to be honest. That's kind of brought to the fore a whole lot of other issues going on inside the council. And I think Wellingtonians have been concerned about the performance of the council for a while. So
okay, now we're going to come back to this comment, but I wrote this down. Hold your P's and Q's there, Chewy. Wellingtonians have been concerned about the performance of the council for a while. I'll come back to this.
So Kieran's right, to be honest. The threshold is high. At the end of the day, 2 years ago, Wellingtonians elected a council. Some people are not happy about the performance of it.
There's another line that we're going to come back to. Some people are not happy about the performance of Wellington City Council.
But they also, you know, there's an election in a year's time. In fact, round about a year. And so people will get the chance to express their displeasure if indeed that manifests at the ballot box. On the other hand, we've also got an obligation as a government to make sure that Wellington is governed effectively, and there's a range of options out there, as Kieran indicates. It doesn't have to be commissioners, could be an observer. Simeon Brown, the minister's looking at the options. He's taking the advice on that, and you know, once he's made a decision, we will do that. He's meeting the mayor this morning, so let's see where that gets to.
All right. Now, let me wind up a little bit. The last comment he made, which I'm going to drag into this last part here, is we have an obligation as a government to make sure Wellington is governed efficiently. Now, let's just change the focus a little bit from Wellington to New Zealand. Do you think that we could organise it that the parliamentarians could receive an email a day telling them to be, quote, realistic about what's happening in New Zealand? Could we say New Zealanders have been concerned about the performance of the government for a while? Because he's saying Wellingtonians are concerned about the performance of the council for a while. Well, what if the whole of the country was concerned about the performance of the government? Some people are not happy about the performance of the council. Hey, some people are not happy about the performance of the government. We have an obligation as the government to make sure Wellington is governed efficiently. Well, we have a fucking obligation as the voters in this country to make sure New Zealand is governed efficiently. I'm just really intrigued that they think that they can go in when it seems like, and I'm still saying seems like because we haven't seen the evidence yet, when it seems like there's not very much going on there for be concerned about, and they're using language that if you use that language about them, the government, would still be accurate. Some people are not happy about the performance of the government. True. New Zealanders are concerned. But he said Wellingtonians. Does he mean every single person in Wellington? No. New Zealanders, every single person in New Zealand? No. New Zealanders have been concerned about the performance of the government for a while. And we have an obligation to make sure New Zealand is governed efficiently. If all it takes is a little bit of, we're gonna put an overseer across this Wellington government. How about we all get together and put in an overseer over the government? Because it's the same argument. Just because you're the bully book boys and you can put your weight on it to do it over Wellington, well, how about we use those same arguments against the government, because they all fit, against the government, and see what weight we can put on them. That's the point that I wanted to bring out from this conversation, Chewy. I get the feeling, I get the sense you knew where I was going halfway through that.
I saw where you're going immediately. And the Bish doesn't see it. Like, if you're going to make a statement like Wellingtonians are happy, how many? How many, and how are you proving it? It's almost like you should have some sort of way of working out who people want as councillors representing them. If only there was some sort of way, maybe every 3 years or so. I don't know. It sounds too hard to solve. He almost stumbled into it. that it's fucking next year.
Yeah.
Are things that dire that we can't wait a year? I think what they know is that it's not the majority of Wellingtonians, that it is a vocal minority that are pissed that they lost the last election. And that's why you've got these businesses at the moment that are writing open letters to the council complaining about cycle lanes ruining their business when they have shit Google reviews going back 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm sorry your business failed. It's not because someone can cycle past it without getting hit by a truck now.
Yeah. Look, the rhetoric they're using just needs to be called out. And look, I think Kieran was very balanced there. He was like, well, he didn't use the word evidence, but when we see the evidence, if it warrants an overseer, then we put in an overseer. That's how you do it. So I'll come right back to the original point of the conversation when we were talking about it earlier. Why are they making such a big deal about Tory Whanau and the Wellington Council? Because as you just said, Chewy, pardon me, the election is next year, right? That means the middle of next year is when this draft is due. Are they going to wait for the draft and then put in an overseer for the last 2 months? Of course they're not. This is all smoke and mirrors, but the question is why? Why didn't we have this with Gore? Why are we having this now? Well, there's something else going on, and we need to have like a group of people that get together and investigate politicians, and then we need like a way for them to disseminate the information out to the public. We used to have that when I was growing up. It was called news. It seems to be harder to find these days, but that's what we need.
This just ties into the absolute avalanche of bullshit that Tory Whanau's had to be dealing with since she was elected.
Yeah.
Like, and it's hard not to look at those things and go, is this an orchestrated campaign? When the same councillors that are causing problems this point and going outside of council directly to government and going, oh, it's a fucking shambles because the person that beat me for mayor has done this thing that we all participated in. You know, when you've got other councillors that'll go, oh, we've seen, I know people that have seen this video that nobody has seen, nobody has produced.
Yeah.
You know, it is just character assassination because it's a green mayor.
And please, I get an email a day, says Bish. No, you don't. You don't read the emails. They don't come to your phone in your pocket. Your PA reads them, or probably your PA's PA reads them. You don't know. And even if that was the case, dude, if I was in charge of something that had 5 million customers and I got 300 complaints in one year, I'd be like, we're fucking smoking it. This is like, percentage-wise, this is basically zero. It's like, don't give us that horse shit. You know, I'm just intrigued to find out what it really is now, Chewy. Hopefully Paula Penfold's onto it, because she always finds out. Kiwi Girl has sent us a super sticker. You'd have to tell me what that is, because it doesn't come up on this pattern. See, just here, super sticker. Oh, I like the
super sticker.
The image. And Kuki's just telling everyone to smash that like. Smash! Smash it! Smash! Smash that like. Smash! Smash. There's one more story, which I think will give you a giggle before we wrap up. Here it is for you, sir.
Oh, that super sticker, I'm just going to have to describe it.
Okay.
It appears to be some sort of fruit with stubby little legs that are kicking, and it has two fluffy things as like the cheerleader pom-poms, and it's doing this.
Right.
So you don't even need to see the super sticker. You just get me to describe it. It's fine.
Last story for the night, and I think you'll like this one, Chewy. It's been around the news today. Hobson's pledge advertisement breached the ASA code, Advertising Standards Authority code.
Oh no! What a tragedy!
The Advertising Standards Complaint Board has upheld in part complaints over the advertisement by Hobson's pledge, which was published in the New Zealand Herald in August. The complaint boards ruled the advertisement, and thanks to One News for this, if you're on the audio podcast, the advertisement headed "Restore the foreshore and seabed to public ownership" must not be used again. The Advertising Standards Authority received a total of 672 complaints after the advertisement's publication in the Herald, yada, yada, yada. Of those 672, 655 were accepted to go to the complaints board. That is a ton of complaints. The board agreed it was an advocacy advertisement and had been sufficiently identified as such. However, the ASA added, the complaints board ruled 3 claims in the 2-page wrap advertisement were materially misleading as to the effect of customary marine title under the Marine and Coastal Act, Takutai Moana Act 2011, and emphasised the importance of factual accuracy in advocating advertising. The board said the claims made in the advertisement were in breach of the truthful presentation and social responsibility principles in the ASA. It also considered other concerns raised by complainants, but ruled there were no further breaches of the code. But you know, when you're doing an advertisement for a lobby group, with all due respect, if it's not truthful, that's kind of the end of it. So even if some other ones, like it wasn't clear enough, that was, even they weren't ruled, the board said the claims made the advertisement were in breach of the truthful presentation and social responsibility principles. A majority decided the advertisement did not reach the threshold to be considered offensive in the context of advocacy advertising. The majority of the board also took into account the protection for freedom of expression in the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act and noted where strong views were expressed, this may cause some level of offence to those who hold contrary views. In a statement to RNZ, an NZME spokesperson defended the decision to run the advertisement. He said, or she said, we're desperate for money. No, they said there are several thousand advertisements placed across NZME's platforms every week, and publishing an advertisement is in no way NZME's endorsement of the advertised message, products, services, or other, the spokesperson said at the time. What they should do is if an advocacy group, don't care who it is, if an advocacy group wants to advertise, they should have a fee that causes the advertisement to go through a lawyer. Like as a part of your advocacy for putting a wrap on our paper, you're going to pay $500 or $100,000 or whatever on top because you're an advocacy group, as we're going to run it through our lawyers to make sure it's all truthful and safe. That would be a responsible thing for a media company to do. The company said responsibility for the advertisement lay with the company's commercial team, the old throw 'em under the bus, and was separate to the Herald's editorial team, but it later said it was reviewing its advocacy advertising policies and declined to publish an additional Hobson pledge ad. Yeah, we know about that. But that would be a way around it. Just say, right, this advert's going to cost you $25,000 plus $1,000 to go through our lawyer, so it's $26,000. If, for example, our lawyers find out we can't run it as is, then you'll just pay the $1,000 lawyer's fee. Done. Easy. If it's not just an advert for whitewear, if it's something else. Thoughts, Joey?
Look, it's good that it was found a breach, but I mean the ASA has no teeth. Like there's no real punishment there, and that advertisement is going to stick with people that it's meant to stick with.
Yeah.
In
that
it? Regard,
a lie can go around the world 3 times while truth is getting its pants on, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just becomes incredibly frustrating for people that know that it's a lie to combat time and time and time again. And we get exhausted and then we stop doing it and we just shout, fuck you at them. And then they go, well, see, I win because you used the F word.
Yeah.
But I will continue to shout, fuck you. For the foreseeable future.
This has been a really good week. Any questions or comments in the chat you want to get to before we wrap up?
Yes, I did start that one. Rents in Wellington are overinflated. They have been for years. Saying it's flat when you look back over 1 year is both stupid and unhinged. Only a stupid and unhinged person would say that. Yeah, Wellington has a huge rent problem. People are paying fucking megabucks to stay in absolute rat holes. And that was the case 10 years ago when I lived there. It's only gotten worse. So for Bish to crow that they're coming down, that the downward pressure is absolutely happening, bullshit.
Yeah. Yep. I was trying to put you off then. Could you hear my ASMR? Or is it not coming through your side?
No, it's absolutely coming through my side. It's great because it's one of those sounds that has a real textural feeling in the back of my throat. Like I hate people rubbing their finger tips over carpet. So that was really good. I enjoyed that. Yeah. Ugh.
Fingertips over carpets.
Yeah, I hate
That's a
it.
weird one. Thanks for giving me that ammunition, though.
That's probably because I'm a little bit neurospicy, but that's one of the ones that just, like people don't like fingernails on chalkboard, like that sound.
Yeah,
like it's like I'm not even feeling people. It's not my fingertips on carpet, but even just hearing that sound or seeing someone do it is just like right in the back of my throat. It's gross.
A huge thanks to all our patrons. Look at you beautiful people. I see you right there. You guys don't know this, but when you become a patron, we get to watch you at night as well. There's your camera turns on, so I can see you all on the screen over here, but only for the patrons. So thanks for you should put some clothes on though. You should never watch us kind of quite dressed like that. If you enjoy what we do, I was going to say this as well earlier, Chewy. You know how I floated that idea of 500 by Christmas, 500 patron by Christmas? It's like it's like 4 patrons every single show all the way through. So I've given up on that because I'm not going to put that quite out there. That will
there you go, people. Prove Pat wrong. Annoy your friends and family. Steal people's credit cards. Bind them all up. Don't do that. Don't go to jail. Don't go to jail.
Thank you for being a part of us. Really appreciate you. As you guys know, we are looking at, we have committed to purchasing this printer gear. Love all you patrons. You guys are certainly helping us get there. Obviously, the investment we're putting into these is significantly more, but every little bit helps. And honestly, you're $5 a month to $250 a month. We love you all, and you are genuinely helping us continue on. If you're interested in what we do, if you want to support us in that way, and look, I always say this as well. If you can't afford it, don't do it. Like if you can't afford it for 6 months, don't do it. If you've got I can do $10 a month for 6 months, cool. If you go, I got $20 spare, then just if you want to do it that way, there's a super chat for a one-off. Because what we actually need for projecting forward is we need consistent patrons. Right. So we know that in 3 months from now, if we're planning something else, like we're looking to expand to the Friday night show, which hopefully will be up, and I would like to see that up and off the ground before, I was saying before the end of this month, but let's say by the start of next month. Just wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Then it's good to know that there is, it's literally just an income coming in regularly that we can then put towards, other things. So very, very cool. I shouldn't have said that because now people are saying things like, don't watch BHN naked. They don't want to see your big hairy. I probably shouldn't have revealed that's what we do, Chewy. No, it's been a good week though. Thank you so much. Have you got anything to wrap up the week with, Chewy? Any thoughts? Anything for the weekend?
So I mentioned earlier, we have a Discord community as well.
Oh yeah.
Going where people discuss the show live. People share media and interviews. There's a lot of people at the moment talking once you've finished watching us, go and watch Chloe's stand-up about Darleen Tana that's on RNZ at the moment. Go and watch Kamala's interview on Fox that we put in the chat earlier. That's all in Discord. But I decided, because I love music, I often talk about my tastes in music and stuff like that. I decided to create a little channel there, Chewy's Jukebox. And we've just been sharing music that we all dig. And it's been cool. It's given me stuff to add to my weekly playlist. And if you scroll right down to the bottom, Pat, I've got a little activity for people there. The last video that I've put up, this has been going for 2 days, by the way. That's why you're scrolling for ages. The second to last video there, just above Detective Rogers there. You scroll up a little bit, up a little bit. There we go. That one there. Mighty Sounds 2015. If you watch that video, the activity is find Chewy.
Ooh.
It's like Where's Wally, but with punks in the Czech Republic.
Okay, you ready for this? Watch this one, then go to TikTok and watch people watching it. Enter. Boom, boom, boom. Right, there's mine. Do you know Ren?
Oh, yes, that's a great video.
It's an unbelievable video. Like it's the kind of video that if it gets you at the right time and in the right headspace, you will be in tears. If it gets you at the right time. So go and watch that video. I've just added one to it. It's Ren. Hi, Ren. He does another one called Sick Boy, which is amazing as well. And then go to TikTok and look up people reacting to Hi, Ren. And just people watching it just in tears. It's unreal. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. There you go, Chewy. I've just jumped onto your thing to be a part of your community. Can I be a part of your community? Am I allowed? Is that right? Can I?
You're the king. You're
right.
king of the castle.
My wife. Oh. All right, guys. It's been beautiful. I want to hear from you when you've seen Hi Ren. See what you think about it. Put it in Discord. I might even try and go on it. I don't know Discord very well. But, okay, Boomer. But I'll see if I can check it out over the weekend and see what you guys think about it.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting peas from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a warpath to run, linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A in a self and a higher in mind. All have a lean either this way or that, and will be analyzed by what Chewy and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's Big Hairy News.
All right, guys. Thanks for being with us tonight. My dog looks like the head's been cut off. It's just like a carcass lying down. That's not good. Thanks for being with us tonight. It's been fun. Really enjoyed tonight's show. Really enjoyed the week. Really appreciate you guys who watch. You can be our supporters in one of a myriad of ways. Don't have to push the Discord, the Patreon again. You know that. But share our stuff around. Lots of clips come out over the weekend. Have a check out some of the stuff you like. And be a part of us 7 days a week. So for me, it's a big hooroo. What about you, Chewy? Anything to finish with?
Be fucking cool to people, because shit's real tough. Shit's real tough at the moment, and we have to hold each other up.
Very cool. All right. Stay safe through the weekend, whānau. We'll catch you Monday night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. Hooroo!
Cheers, fam.